Good morning, good afternoon, bonjour, bonsoir, bienvenido, bienvenue. Welcome from the IICA-COLEACP team. I am Ina Harvey, IICA representative Barbados, and I am joined by my dear friend and colleague, Isolina BOTO, head of networks and alliances at COLEACP, to welcome you to today's session. We have about 800 participants registered. For this session, we also have French and Spanish interpretation to respond to the hundreds of participants we had in the past session across continents. We are very excited by the interest shown in this series, and thank you all for joining us today. I would also like to say thanks to our partners from the first session, Caribbean Export, the ABC Fund, and the EU, and to the businesses featured, who we understand are already networking and increasing their access to export markets. The topic of today is very important for all of us. The transition to bioeconomy and a circular economy has the potential to be a driver of job creation, value addition, and economic growth when supported by appropriate policies, legislation, and incentives, and is a necessity to reach the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Agreement targets. It is also an opportunity for countries to promote the diversification of their economies and generate new value chains, especially those that contribute to regional development, are in high growth market segments, and which offer opportunities to young people and women. It is a priority for IICA and COLEACP to support entrepreneurs to transition to the green economy, adopt bioeconomy and circular economy approaches, contributing to sustainable growth by maximizing the efficiency of resource allocation and ultimately producing more outputs from fewer inputs. The circular economy has gained prominence in Latin America and the Caribbean in recent years. And most of the countries in the region have either implemented or are planning new circular economy policies, public initiatives, and roadmaps. Today, we will feature local Caribbean businesses which contribute to the green economy and have adopted sustainable models across different value chains. They will share their experiences, which could inspire many others. This session will be followed by inputs from experts in finance, policy, and research, which have programs which support entrepreneurs. We're also preparing studies, business-to-business meetings, and agribusiness forums with regional and international partners to link SMEs with new markets as well as finance. We will then open for questions and conclude with inputs from the Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, Escipion Oliveira. We encourage you to post questions to the panelists in the Q&A and contribute to the chat. We encourage the panelists to respond as well to some. The bios for all of the presenters will be accessed through the link provided. So I will ask you to look for the bios. I will just give a very short introduction to our presenters so that I can give them maximum time to tell you their wonderful stories. So once again, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. Our panelists today come from Trinidad and Tobago, St. Lucia, and the Dominican Republic. I'm going to introduce all of them and then ask them to take the floor. Johanan DUJON is the founder and CEO of Algas Organics St. Lucia, the Caribbean's first indigenous agriculture biotechnology company. We're so proud. Algas Organics is fighting the invasive sargassum seaweed that has been spoiling Caribbean beaches and devastating marine life since 2011. The firm converts sargassum seaweed into organic agricultural inputs, including fungicides, pesticides, and crop fertilizers to improve crop resilience and increase yields without harming their users or damaging the environment. Johanan DUJON was named one of Forbes' 30 Under 30 2020 in the manufacturing and industry category. He holds a degree in business studies from Sir Arthur Lewis Community College in St. Lucia. Gustavo GANDINI is the Organic Agricultural Biodiversity and Environment Coordinator of Banelino in the Dominican Republic. Gustavo is an expert on sustainable agriculture. He participated in the UN ECLAC Carbon Footprint and Exports Project, and Banelino is the Ecological Bananas Association of the Northwest Line, an exporting group of organic certified bananas, certified fair trade, and global gap, amongst others. Gustavo completed his undergraduate studies at Escuela Agrícola Panamericana El Zamorano in Honduras. He also has postgrad diplomas in plant protection, biological production from Instituto de Investigaciones de Sanidad Vegetal in Cuba, and in organic farming from the University of Francisco Marino in the Dominican Republic. Nigel Jordan is the co-founder and CEO of Twigs Naturals Trinidad and Tobago, a local green-blue enterprise created in 2016 that makes 100% natural herbal teas in Arima in Trinidad using all natural ingredients. The various teas include mint, lemongrass, garlic, ginger, orange peel, bamboo, and moringa. Twigs Naturals seeks to give back to the community by hiring people, mainly single mothers, who would otherwise find it difficult to get a job that pays a decent wage. The company also participates in events that promote environmental sustainability to build its network of suppliers and consumers. Twigs Naturals was named Startup and Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017 by the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce at this annual Champions of Business Awards. Internationally, its Caribbean Christmas tea and mint tea earned top spots at the 2017 Global Tea Championship. So let us welcome our businesses, and I'll ask our first presenter, Johanan DUJON, to please take the floor. Johanan, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ina. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just switching over to the link on my laptop so we can jump on right away. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks again for the opportunity. Just a brief overview. I definitely believe that the bioeconomy is the way to go, simply because, well, not because we operate within that industry, but it's a way to sustainably achieve sustainable development, I believe, in terms of using the naturally available resources that small island development states have, and transition from a situation of what I like to say, learned helplessness, to one where countries could actually leverage their biodiversity to create industries that could employ women, youth, and another major create major employment opportunities for others. So I'm just going to log into the. I'm going to jump off my phone and jump onto the. There we go. Now, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Johanan.
Lovely, perfect.
Some folks want to see you.
Oh boy. Yeah, I will oblige shortly.
Okay.
So, right. So let me just pop this open here. So just a little bit. Let me just share my screen here. So a little bit about Algas Organics. We were founded in 2014. I founded the company in 2014 as a family company. Let me just open this up right here. Share. Oops. It says I don't have permission to share my screen. 1 second.
Mohamed, can he give you permission? I think you have permission, Mohamed.
I don't think I could actually share my screen, unfortunately. No, I don't think I could actually share. It's not allowing me to share my screen.
You want?
Mohamed, you gave permission to Johanan because we don't have his presentation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just give me a few minutes.
Okay.
There we go. I should have gotten it now. Whoops, no, this is still not allowing me to share. Perhaps
you want me to switch to
Nigel? Can you try again now?
Oh, try again.
Oh, okay. Yes. I think I can actually. There we go.
Ah, there we go. There we go. Sorry about that.
No worries. There we go. All right.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, so Algas Organics, again, was founded by myself back in 2014 to actually solve the Caribbean sargassum seaweed issue sustainably. I think this is a perfect example of the bioeconomy and the combined and circular economy as well, where we recognize that there was an issue that could be solved and create an industry could actually be created from it. And so our vision from the commencement of the company was actually to process about 10 billion pounds of sargassum seaweed per annum by 2030, create 5,000 jobs across the Caribbean, and have our product applied to about 60 million acres around the world. Yeah, pretty big vision. So our solution is very straightforward. Essentially, part one of it's a three-phase solution. Part one is landfill diversion. And so what we do is that we keep coastal areas clean by sustainably harvesting sargassum seaweed for processing rather than disposal. So what happens in other countries other than St. Lucia, the sargassum is actually collected and it's dumped in a landfill where it actually leaches out into potentially aquifers and water sources, and that could be a real problem. It's basically shifting the issue from the beach to the land. For us, we actually diverted to our factory for processing. So that's phase one. Phase two of our solution is industry development. So that material that we diverted from landfills is now converted into these products here. We need to update those photos because our farmers use much bigger pack sizes now, between 55 gallons and 300 gallons is what they use. But we convert the sargassum seaweed into world-class crop nutrition and crop protection products for export to Europe, North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean. We presently export to the Caribbean region, the US, Canada, and we have commenced some export to Europe. That should be scaled up shortly. And the third pillar of our, let's go back again. We had the first pillar of landfill diversion, the second pillar of industry development, but the third and most important pillar for us is community development, because we employ women and marginalized youth in affected communities to actually harvest the sargassum. So what pays them way above living wages. So our team, which comprises between 10 to sometimes 30, 40 persons, because we partner with various governments to actually undertake salary splitting initiatives where the government pays a portion of the salaries, we pay a portion of the salaries. That allows us to go up to 60 to 80 people. And these people get paid what a bank teller would be paid, essentially, to pick up sargassum. So it's really an opportunity where persons can earn a meaningful livelihood and they're able to actually contribute to the development of the industry and the keeping clean of their various communities. So our success is that we've been able to develop a patented process, which, as you can see here from a analysis from Cariri and CAFA, sorry, our product has no arsenic, no cadmium, lead, cobalt, mercury, nickel, none of those. So our patented process has been certified by independent ISO 9000 certified labs to have no heavy metals, and that's essentially the success of our process is that it's patented globally, but it has also solved the heavy metals issue with handling sargassum. So that is what has allowed us to be able to export globally and very soon get organic certification as well. Our products have proven performance. So as you can see, it's very easy to see. We just put some photos in here. Over 1 million pounds of sargassum processed into fertilizer for export. And if you look up here, you can see how the product actually works. Application 1 at transplanting. This is 8 days later. Look at the flower set here. You get max. The product stimulates flower set and more flowers that stay on the plant turn into more fruit, which turn into a higher yield. So that's how the product actually works. It improves root development, improves flower set, as you can see here, and actually allows crops to be productive even under some of the toughest circumstances in terms of heat stress and other abiotic stress. This is some string beans here on a commercial farm in St. Lucia. This is a pak choy farm. This was application 1. 1 week later, the farmer had to harvest this early because it was growing too quickly. So that's, and it's all natural, which is the beautiful part. If you look here at the quality of that crop, you see no pest damage, no disease issues. It's just high quality produce. What has made us stand out in the international market space is that we offer unbeaten value to our farmers. So our products are cost competitive versus global players. Reason being, one, our raw material, which is sargassum, floats to us by the millions of pounds, while they have to go, our competitors have to have the unfortunate task of going hundreds of miles out to sea to actually harvest their seaweed. So that's one unfair advantage that we have. Thank you, sargassum, for that. And the other set of unfair advantages, our proprietary patented process differs tremendously from the potassium hydroxide extraction processes that are used by competitors. So what we have through our hybrid fermentation process is a more biologically active extract than our competitors, which has a lower molecular weight, which means that it's able to penetrate the plant cell structure a lot more efficiently. So our products work better, work faster, and are cheaper than the competitors because of those things here, those advantages mentioned here. So just to go a little bit deeper as to how the product works again. So this is an excerpt from one of our international trials. So on the left, you have a tomato plant treated with regular fertilizer. On the right, you have a tomato plant, same age, same variety, treated with Algas. And the difference is very clear. Algas stimulates what you call tertiary root development, where it influences what is called root system architecture. So if you look here now, this root system to the right here that I just highlighted has a much higher surface area than this root system here. So this root system with Algas is going to absorb more water and nutrients from the soil. And that's going to also aid the plant in coping with abiotic stress a lot better than root systems that you would get with even just regular chemical fertilizers. Again, we have gotten a lot of traction globally. We've been recognized by Forbes. That was one of our biggest honors thus far. Huffington Post, CTA, we have partnered very closely with IICA from day one, and IICA has supported us tremendously along our journey through Brent Theophil and the rest of the team down in St. Lucia, and Ina as well, the rest of the team, and the beautiful Malcolm, who is probably not there anymore. I think he's in Dominican now, but there's a lot of people who have been very instrumental at IICA in our development to actually get to where we are now. We've also worked very closely with UNDP, Jeff. We've worked very closely as well right now with IDB, which is assisting us in actually scaling out our innovation globally. And so, yeah, that brings me to the end of the very brief presentation. Apologies again for the technical difficulties, and we are open to partnership. I have put up the contact screen, so my contact slide, so that you could touch base with us and see how we could actually work together. Again, our vision is a big one. I come from a small island, but sargassum affects almost 23 countries across the region, and we have a solution that is infinitely scalable, as we've been proving over the years. And so, we're open to partnership with funding agencies, with multilateral partners, with other institutions that are interested in solving the sargassum issue in their respective territories, but also research organizations in the African continent. We worked with SLARI in Sierra Leone in 2016 to do some trials for rice for the ECOWAS region. So there's a lot of opportunities in Africa in terms of increasing crop production, because we already know that sub-Saharan Africa has lower than usual rates of usage of chemical fertilizers. And that, by extension, due to lack of, and in addition to lack of irrigation, actually, puts these crops in a lot of abiotic stress. And using a product like ours could actually increase tremendously the output of rice and other, core staples in Africa, and particularly the ECOWAS region. And since a lot of economies are tied to agriculture, like Sierra Leone's economy is tied very closely to agriculture, it's amazing how a simple product may be able to positively influence, if it's adopted widely, the entire GDP of a country. So I'd like to end with that and just say thank you again for the opportunity. And we'd love to speak with everyone further on potential opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johanan. As soon as you get the opportunity, you need to see a handsome face. And in the Q&A, there are already some questions that you may want to answer directly, but there's interest already from Africa, hi Johanan, to use the product in Africa. And there's a question, could it be used for water hyacinth? Let me welcome all of our participants so far who have joined us. We have 184 online right now, over 800 registered. We have quite a wide participation from Africa, Togo, Burkina Faso, Madagascar, Guinea, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Uganda, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Kenya, Sierra Leone. We have from the Caribbean, right across the Caribbean, Trinidad, Haiti, Bahamas, right down, and we have France, the US, Canada. So this is an international webinar. And we hope to really create a lot of alliances and linkages. So welcome once more to everyone. You can access the links to the bios of our presenters in the Q&A, and please use the chat, use the Q&A. Let me now welcome our second enterprise, Gustavo Gandini from Banelino, Dominican Republic. Gustavo is going to present in Spanish. You have an interpretation service. You can please press the appropriate button for your specific language. You have English, French, and Spanish. So Gustavo, the floor is yours.
Buenos días a todos. Good
morning, everyone from the Dominican Republic. I wish to greet you all, and we are now going to present our experience. So the experience that we have on circular agriculture, bioeconomy, etc. Could you please confirm that you can see my presentation all right? Yes, thank you. Wonderful. So we have Bananos Ecológicos de la Línea Noroeste. So Banelino, it's a small producers association of the Dominican Republic, and one of the main exporters of organic banana that is part of the whole conglomerate of producers that have made the Dominican Republic in normal conditions. So the main exporter of these products in its organic form. So we see that it's a huge difference, and it offers also added value that allows us to reach different markets. So Banelino is promoting, we could say, maybe not directly or not directly identified, because it's true that we have been working on this for 22 years. And what we're doing right now is fostering bioeconomy, what is now known as green business, because a reason to produce is focusing on organic farming, ecologic farming. Depending on the language you use, there are different terms and in different countries, but basically, well, we're always talking about the same thing. So organic farming. And I think that something that we can highlight, which is extremely interesting, is that our organic farming is based on small producers, 170 producer association of these small producers. And the area are more or less 5 hectares. And in this sector, well, it's more or less a backyard that if we compare this with multinationals that might have more 300, 350 hectares for their production. So moreover, we do have this organic certification, and we also have the Fair Trade certification and the Global Debt certification. So these are 3 important labels and 3 important pillars for the certification for all those wishing to export to Europe within our association. Well, the green economy has different pillars, as you know. So our organic production system also has 4 pillars, as we can see here, 4 main principles, and they work together as a whole, as different pieces of a whole. We might have problems in one of these elements, but we need for all of them to work for the system to be sustainable. And if there are problems in one of these elements, well, it can all go down. So they work together jointly in the same space. Our system is based on the soil. So we consider soil as a living being, and it's essential in production. And then we also have biodiversity. Biodiversity, not only as diversity, but biodiversity. So within the diversity, within the different parcels that we have for the banana trees, we have different species that are sharing the same space. So we're talking both about, plants and animals. And we see that at the same time, we are talking about a whole system that works together, and we have all these issues that are now paramount, for example, regarding water that is being considered as a unit, and water is being managed as a basin right now. For example, it's also important to have a very clear idea of the impact of the environment regarding our production, the impact it has on our production, the way we might have an impact on the environment through our production. And then the economy as such, sometimes very often we say from an agricultural point of view that there is, of course, the economy, but we have the human factor, not just governing the system, just an element of the system. And this is why it's here. So we need to take into account the human factor. And well, we have these children, which are the sons here in this case of the producer. They're also participating here. They're trying to collect different materials that serve to cover the soil. So we need to have this new generation that is passionate about this, that can create, that wants to be, in this case, these sons, like their father, they also want to be producers. If this is not given, if this does not exist, it cannot be sustainable, because we need to have farmers for agriculture. So regarding soil, what are we doing specifically in Banelino? Right now, we are embarked in this new way, new focus regarding the nutritional balance of the plants. In our case, well, we have the organic approach. We carry out an analysis of the soil, not only chemical analysis, which is what we see more often, but we also carry different analyses that are important. So physical analysis, because the structure of the soil is vital for plants. We also analyze the chemical composition. This is what is usually done to see what I can use from the soil. In our case, we use this to try to see how we can provide support to the soil to improve it. And then we have the biological, microbiological analysis that is assessed regularly. And then, well, it's a global analysis and also taking into account the consumption of the plant. And then we calculate the need of nutrients, for example, that the plant can have. And then based on this and for the production, we analyze what we need to provide, so the inputs. So we have bioferments, and in the hectares that we have in Banelino, we are able to provide support. The project is growing continuously because producers are convinced that this system works and their nutrition is something that can be managed directly, self-managed by Banelino. And here you see something that is quite interesting. Here we see in the screen, what we do is also collect microorganisms that are beneficial for the soil. And this can provide support, and there are things that we can further use to produce our bioferments. And then we're using a concept that was developed through a program, not only cover plants, but also so-called service plants. So we do have the coverage. It provides nutrients, of course, to the plants. Here we see, because we have the fixation of nitrogen, it's somewhat of polemic in this sense, but it can be very beneficial. And then we also have the physical approach, because it avoids erosion of the soil. And then it also provides a habitat, for example, for insects that can be beneficial. And also, for example, this provides for further support for chickens or hens, for example. So we are trying to continuously improve the soil. This is why we are following closely the organic matter presence of fungi, bacteria, for example, nematodes, and it can be enemy number one. It was considered like this in the past regarding banana trees, but we have seen, but if we're able to manage nematodes in an adequate way, it is actually positive. This is why what we do is monitor the nematodes population. Regarding the issue of the soil, we are also working closely with universities, with the Autonomous University of Santo Domingo specifically. We have been able to identify more than 200 beneficial microorganisms that are interacting in the Dominican Republic with the different plantations that we have of banana trees. So we selected 3 bacteria that have a specific characteristic. They're endophytes, so they work within the plant and they have an impact regarding the management of one of the main diseases that these plants can have. So these bacteria enter into the plant and they are able to improve the immune system of the plant to be able to face these diseases. And this allows us to control this type of disease. And the use of this bacteria allows us to reduce inputs, and we are able to reduce the use of fertilizers. Biodiversity is an essential and vital element within our production, and we are involving or taking into account both vegetables, vegetal species, plants, and animals. And what we're doing is take into account biodiversity regarding what was traditionally monoculture, and we see that we have different types of species, specifically 3 vegetal species at the same time in the same space. So we see bananas, but then in 10%, we also have cocoa plants, coconut plants. As you know, the organic certification, it takes into account the area and the soil, so not the specific species. So we are talking about other elements that can also be interesting. And then we have the issue, as I mentioned before, of service plants. Service plants are important. They allow us to improve production, and they have a beneficial effect, and specifically also not only on production, but also on biodiversity. We have chickens, for example, for egg production, but also for poultry in general, for meat. And we also see production of honey, for example, at the same time with the presence of bees. So there's honey production. We are also working with so-called service trees that can be used as a barrier or fence, for example, to separate different areas, but they can also be used to improve food sources. And we also have the situation regarding FOCR4T that everyone is aware of because it is quite dangerous. It's not present in all continents. In vetiver right now, it's not present in the Dominican Republic, and we hope it doesn't reach us. But it's true that there are specific rules and regulations that impose a clear delimitation of the farming grounds. So vetiver plant is wonderful to be able to establish these limits and areas in the farming areas that we have here. So they have a wonderful system that is created in the sense that acts as a filter between the different farming areas. And there's also green, so there's CO2 capture, but at the same time, we see that it can provide for added income. As you all know, vetiver is one of the elements that is used for the production of perfumes. And then we have, regarding the environment, well, there's the plastic residue that we need to manage. So we need to have adequate systems for management and recycling. Then we also have the carbon footprint and also water use. We need to have an adequate and strike an adequate balance to improve production. And we want to have enhanced efficiency regarding water. And then we also have projects for reforestation and conservation, and we have different climate stations that allows us to see what is the current situation. Is this positive for the production, the banana production, but also to know what are the climate conditions and changes regarding the climate, so climate change, how can we further mitigate it, better adapt, how can we stop the process? Here just to show or to illustrate regarding the environment, we have just installed a small recycling plant of the plastic covers that we use that cover banana plants and the bananas, specifically regarding the pallets before export. And this is a plant that is going to allow us to cover also the plastic demand within Banelino. It's relatively small. Also, the cost is rather low, and we can use it for our own use in a way. And it has been planned right now. Also, we have in the Banelino offices a photovoltaic system to be able to produce energy, and also the installation of a recycling plant of used waters from a point of view of the green plants through a technology that we have with natural filters through the use of wetlands. So this is part of our green economy. It's part of the circular economy, and it's part of our component that we believe is essential, the human component. So we're promoting this associative strengthening. For example, we also have social and health programs that are extremely interesting. When compared to corporations, for example, we're designing social and health programs. We do this before starting to work. So we don't need to wait to see if there are benefits or if we have profit at the end of the year through the sales of our bananas. No, we do this before in a proactive way because it's part of our structure. It's a very important element, and something I mentioned at the beginning also is the generational inclusion. So we include youth. This is essential for sustainability. So there's a banana school where we show the children of the producers everything that is related to this production so they can feel proud and so they can feel passionate about this. And then we have the inclusion of women. 30% of the producers are women, actually 31% now, because this figure is growing. And then I would like to further highlight producers. So all of these projects, all the different concepts, what they're trying to do is to seek the following, is seeking other activities. So I would rather focus on the producer. Others are focusing on other activities because the producer is essential, is the essential stakeholder, man or woman, as we have seen before, but producers are essential, especially when we're talking about small producers. We need to be very careful with them to make sure they are able to develop adequately for their quality of their lives, to also develop, to have the technical capacity that they can also further implement. And to finish, and I think this is just some food for thought, and it's true that we still have a lot of work ahead of us with producers to understand the present and the future. Small producers, unfortunately, with the new changes right now brought about regarding the production, the increase of the different regulations to be able to export, regulations are increasingly complicated. For example, an organic farm of 300 hectares usually has 4 neighbors, so to speak, and we need to be careful with that. And then in this same area for Banelino, we're talking about 170 producers. We're talking about 1,000 neighbors. So they all need to follow this. So for small producers, it's very complicated to analyze all of this because they cannot control all of this. And well, we have problems regarding residue of fertilizers, for example, and I've shown all the different practices, but this is having an impact. It can come when we're trying to discover how the product has been contaminated. And during that time, we see that a producer cannot further export and might, well, if they're not able to export for a week, for example, this can have a huge impact on them, on the way they earn their living. So, well, this is more or less what we are doing, and I just wanted to share this with you. We have started with bioeconomy and in general promoting green businesses. We are applying these different principles and to go further in our development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gustavo, for that very comprehensive presentation, lots of information. Let me welcome those who have joined us since we introduced Gustavo. We're now up to 200 participants online. Please check the Q&A, check the chat. Lots of networking going on in the chat, lots of valuable information. And I see that the speaker, Johanan DUJON, has already answered several questions. So post your questions to Gustavo on the Q&A and you can get direct answers. Gustavo, feel free to answer directly online. Let me now welcome Nigel Jordan to the speaker podium. Thank you, Nigel. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. Bonjour, hello. Every language, every time zone, good morning, good evening. Blessings to you all. It is indeed an honor to be present here today from Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Nigel Jordan. From Twigs Naturals, we produce locally grown, packaged and processed teas. We also do seasonings, and we have a small range of blended oils for aromatherapy. So the idea really is to produce a taste, a smell, a touch, a format that you can taste not just Trinidad and Tobago, but enjoy the Caribbean regardless of where you are, wherever in the world. That's important for us, especially for me primarily. My grandparents are from literally one each from a different part of the Caribbean. So it's Barbados, I have Dominican roots, I have St. Lucian roots, Bossejou. So it's really important for me to push not just our product, but a taste of our culture, culinary culture, a taste of us as a people. So I think the presentation is being thrown up here. So yes, Tamika, blessings. Right. So you can go to the second slide, please. Yeah. So the company actually started as a Saturday afternoon exercise with my son. At the time, he was 10 years old. We grew up in a home where initially my dad, who is from the countryside, the philosophy is if you can't grow it and you can't eat it, don't bother, you're wasting time. Because even the ornamental plants, you should be able to find some way to utilize it, whether it's in the kitchen, in the medicine cabinet, and of course, like a typical Caribbean person, the herbs in the garden would be your medicine chest as well. You have a slight cough, you have upset stomach, whatever is the case. So the problem I had growing up hearing all of these anecdotes about the importance of your kitchen garden is the vast majority of the ones Granny would give us to drink didn't taste good. So my mission was, if my son loves tea, I would have our own kitchen garden. And the idea is to produce things that we can enjoy. So flavor, the fact that you taste something good from nature, that was paramount to us. And of course, we know it's good for you, but let's make sure we can enjoy it. So that was the main focus of drawing things out from our own little kitchen garden. So we started with this Saturday afternoon exercise, and my son used coffee filters from the coffee machine and your decorative ribbons for balloons. And that was the start of it all. Next slide, please. We entered competitions at the Global Tea Championships. We placed second in a couple of categories, and we found we got quite a bit of feedback from the traditional stuff we use here in Trinidad and Tobago. Things like orange peel, bay leaf, or West Indian bay leaf in Jamaica, it's called pimento. The French Caribbean, they would call it cinnamon. We use those really traditional ingredients to make the teas. And despite the fact that we won a couple international awards, we got quite a bit of acclaim. We found the buyers could not move it into their markets. So the next step was for us to work with organizations like IICA. We've done a lot of work with Caribbean as well from a business development and product development perspective. They have an awesome business hatchery package solution for SMEs and really small entrepreneurs. And most recently, we were now inducted in the Export TT's Export Booster Initiative. So they've been working with us to transition from your really boutique type product into something that can stand up on the international market with respect to the GAP analysis, GAP certification, which is relatively new in Trinidad and Tobago. Our farmers are now becoming GAP compliant. So that's a good step there for the international market. Export TT and IICA has been instrumental in us working towards our introduction of GMPs and other important food safety mechanisms within our process. So we now moved from the boutique artisan sort of step into something a little more formal, and this has given us quite a bit of exposure. So right now we have product being sold in the UK and as well in the United States. We have conversations taking place in Canada and Switzerland with potential for the West African market, where coincidentally the majority of the traffic that comes from the majority of traffic that comes to our website, twigsnaturals.com, is actually from the African continent. South Africa, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Senegal in particular, oh my goodness. And this has been bolstered by the fact that we are halal certified as well. So we get quite a bit of interest, quite a bit of messages via social media and emails through WhatsApp as well, because we have a direct chat option on our website. Next slide, please. So the product range, as I said, speaks to primarily traditional stuff to us here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we would say fever grass or lemongrass here. We use a lot of ginger. We have moringa. The thyme, Spanish thyme that we speak of is actually known as Indian borage. And all of these ingredients actually speaks to the diversity of the Trinidad and Tobago historical culture and the fact that all of our ingredients actually touches different aspects of the globe, which really speaks to the cosmopolitan nation that we are here in Trinidad and Tobago. So the other award winner that we have some of the ingredients for here would be our Caribbean Christmas tea. That's a blend of wild hibiscus, or in the region we would know as sorrel. Outside it's also known as roselle. We also use a lot of anise seeds. Yeah. Next slide, please. So we take from the environment. What is important for us at Twigs Naturals is not just what we take out, but also how we use it and what we put back in. So let's start with the tea bags. Our products are what we call loose leaf tea. It's tea bagged, and the tea bags are manufactured from a material called zane. It's a corn-based polymer. So even that as well can be broken down. The string is 100% cotton. So all these little things add to how we treat and use the product inside. We also use at events, we use a lot of biodegradable cups, post-consumer material as well. Even our signage is made from reclaimed hand-painted wood. So there's an artisan that we lean on. She's based in Tobago. In general, we use a lot of artisans. So you'd see the ceramic cup there as well. Nola, Auntie Nola, I call her Auntie Nola. She is really awesome at using actual products from nature. So she would do the mold. That coconut cup you're seeing there is made from the mold of an actual coconut. So we also use a lot of hand-painted stuff, leaning on the artisan. So they present the product in terms of the look, the feel, and giving you a real sense of who we are as a Caribbean people. On the more modern, contemporary side of things, lately we've introduced some bamboo cups as well with some branded material. And the last version of our labels, we've been able to work with our printer so that even the ink we use is a soy-based material. So as many inputs that we have, we consider even the vehicle we use to transport the raw material is a biofuel CNG vehicle. So it may not be 100% eco-friendly and green, but we're doing as much as we can to ensure that every little element into the product carries some sort of not just financial value, but environmental value. And this is the philosophy of the Green Economy Coalition. We are founding signers of the Santa Cruz Treaty, which speaks to Trinidad and Tobago via Canary, really pledging not just the SMEs, but their government stakeholders and whatnot to put things in place in a real policy development perspective to help not just the economic side of things, but also the environmental and other sustainable causes that support the economy. Next slide, please. Where are we going? As I said, we have product being pushed out to North America. We have interest in Europe / Africa. In the region, we're in conversation right now via Export TT to have more presence in that market. We're actually in Trinidad and Tobago, the tea of choice for the Cinnabon chain, and as well a couple supermarkets, but more so we're very niche because of the type of product we have. It's a very saturated market, this tea market. And the main differentiator between our product and others on the supermarket shelves, because of my background, we really want you to feel like if Tanti, like if Granny, like Nani, like Aji, all of these maternal or even paternal figures, your grandparents, made that cup of tea for you. So when you sip on that cup of bay leaf tea after a long, hard day, you're supposed to feel as if Granny made it for you, as if Tanti made it for you. And the difference between our product is it gives that feel and appeal based on our manufacturing process. So the tea bags have in it not powders. We try to not go to break down our ingredients to a powder. What that does as well is enhances the flavor, it enhances the aroma, and that reduces the over processing. So you have an even higher quality tea. Because of the West African interests, we've already gotten support from Export TT in terms of the label translation. So we have a sample there, Caribbean Christmas tea, and we're actually moving towards the next batch of printing to be able to support moving in that direction. Yeah, next slide, please. So twigsnaturals.com. Check us out online, social media, Facebook, Instagram. We have a chat icon there as well. So even if you don't need to pick up the phone and literally dial and call, you can send us a message directly on our website. We're interested in working with and presenting not just herbs and product from Trinidad and Tobago, but the rest of the region in general. As I said, it is near and dear to me as a real Caribbean person with roots literally all over the region. Yeah, that's it basically. Thank you so much for your time. IICA and the rest of the team, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Nigel. I think we've had 3 awesome presentations. I'm seeing in the chat, people very happy to hear these presentations. They want the emails. Please be assured that we'll be sharing all of the emails, all of the presentations, and the link to this whole webinar to all participants. Thanks again. And it's now time to turn over to my dear colleague, Isolina BOTO, Head of Networks and Alliances at COLEACP. Let me thank Isolina and her team for their solid support and hard work. Lots of support and hard work went in to planning this webinar and the whole webinar series that we have under our IICA-COLEACP agreement. Let me once again welcome those joining us. And I turn over now to Isolina BOTO to introduce our experts in research and innovation, finance, and investment. Over to you, Isolina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ina. And again, hello to everybody. I'm also very impressed by what I see in the chat and questions and answers, and especially what we started as a Caribbean session and has become now very, very wide geographically, and with already many exchanges, business exchanges happening on, which is what we want to promote. So the second panel is very interesting as well, because having heard the SMEs and their priorities and their challenges, but their successes as well, we are now turning to the ecosystem. And this ecosystem is everybody who can support the SMEs, the policymakers, the research, the financiers. The operators need to be aware, of course, of the opportunities and benefits of the bioeconomy. They also need to be incentivized. And from COLEACP, we know how difficult it is, how hard work some of the small and medium scale enterprises need to put on the plate to really transition to green practices. But it's of course indispensable, as it was said, to meet the SDGs, climate commitments and so on, but also more importantly to create, of course, as Ina said, new businesses, new markets, quality jobs, and growing demand for more environmentally produced products. The challenges are complex, and MSMEs need to be addressing many of the requirements at the same time. So we will hear a bit now about organizations that support them directly, and they will make presentations as much as possible focus on really the needs of the private sector we have, especially on the local companies and the small or medium scale enterprises. So we will start by Ricardo James, who is a senior technical specialist, business environment and export development at OECS. He's responsible for the policy, legislative and regulatory frameworks for MSME competitiveness, trade and exports in the OECS. He was previously, so he's very aware as well with our geographical representation today. He had worked as well at the WTO in Geneva, defending the trade and development interest of the OECS. He will tell just in the beginning for those who are in Africa, what countries are on OECS level. And he was also the lead person, spokesperson for the African, Caribbean and Pacific group of countries, while also supporting the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreements negotiations. So without a major delay, Ricardo, the floor is yours, and making it, if possible, a bit less than 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isolina, and good morning to, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is on this call. It is a pleasure for me to be here representing the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, the OECS Commission, which is located in the Eastern Caribbean. It is an intergovernmental organization for deeper regional integration among 11 island states in the Eastern Caribbean, including 2 French territories, Guadeloupe and Martinique, former British colonies in the Eastern Caribbean, and some other territories as well who are still not fully independent. So it's a variety of small states. We share in common our smallness, our diversity of culture, but also similarity as well. And the goal really is to create among the protocol member states a single economic space. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And I just wanted to talk about some of the work and initiatives that we are doing here at the Competitive Business Unit. That is the unit that I am working in. But let me start, with the broader context of the Commission itself. The OECS Commission, of course, is an important value on protecting the environment. In fact, valuing the environment is one of the key strategic priorities of the Commission in its 6-year planning framework from 2022 to 2027. And basically, we are looking at the Commission to ensure that our natural systems are healthy, productive, and are leveraged for socio-economic development. We are seeking to strengthen the enabling environment to secure the long-term benefits from the environmental and natural resources. And we are also seeking to increase the knowledge of our citizens on environmental opportunities and practices. And in that regard, some of the things that we want to achieve is to ensure that the value of our natural resources form part of our development processes. We also want to increase the application of environmentally sound policies and practices at all levels, and to increase advocacy and outreach and the engagement on the private sector. So there is a broader, and we have an economic sustainable development division that is largely responsible for that work. So, the issues of the bioeconomy, the blue economy, the green economy are very important pieces of work for the OECS Commission. At the Competitive Business Unit, we are focused on another strategic priority, but still contributing to that, where we are seeking to reinvent our economies in the OECS. Traditionally, the OECS has been agriculture-based. Largely, tourism is a very significant part of the economy, increasingly services. But as we recognize some of the challenges of single sector economies that can face challenges because of external shocks, this goal of reinventing the economy. And so looking to ensure that we transform our economy and make it globally competitive is part of the broader goal of the Commission. And at the CBU, we are working towards that, particularly in terms of increasing the competitiveness of the productive sectors, particularly in agriculture, manufacturing, creative industries as well. and supporting, the fostering of entrepreneurship as a key part of our goal, working with the business support organizations to strengthen them through institutional capacity, institutional strengthening and capacity building. And in that regard, enhancing sustainable activity in the blue and green economy is one of the areas, of course, that we are working towards. And I also mentioned the increased competitiveness of entrepreneurs and MSMEs. So we are at the CBU. We have a particular couple of programs in the area of entrepreneurship, and I wanted to highlight one of them, but I'll mention two as well. And that has to do with our partnership that we have with the Global Green Growth Institute, that is the GGGI. It's based in Korea. We are working with them on the establishment of an Eastern Caribbean Green Entrepreneurship Initiative. It's a 3-year project that is funded by the Qatar Fund for Development, and it's implemented by the GGGI with the OECS Commission, and the CBU is the focal point for that. It will offer incubation and accelerator programs, including virtual training, courses, and mentorship, in-person events and networking opportunities in 6 OECS member states. So it's focused on the 6 independent member states of the OECS, and it is targeted at green businesses. And those are businesses whose models include solutions aimed at contributing to their country's climate and sustainable development goals. Okay. The incubator program, it will be targeting existing innovative early stage, medium, small, micro enterprises, including women-owned firms, because there's part of the OECS as well work on gender to be more inclusive. So women and youth and differentially able persons. So these firms with the demonstrated growth potential, who are still in pursuit of a scalable and repeatable business model, as well as citizens with the experience and entrepreneurial ambitions. So those are the targets for this incubator program. The successful entrepreneurs in the program will have the opportunity to participate in a sort of a competition to secure grant seed fund capital of about $10,000 US, up to $10,000 US, to be, that they can inject into their business. There's also an accelerator program that will start later on. That one will target high potential startups and in the growth stage. So while the incubator will focus more on the early, the startups, those who are probably just beyond the level of ideation, they have a business model, but may not. The incubator will be looking at those who have been in operation for a little while. It will also target, prioritize, women and green job creation for women and youth. That incubator program will be offering interest-free loans in the amount of up to $50,000 US, and a structured program for providing these entrepreneurs with links to investors, because the goal here is to provide some interest-free loans, but also to provide them with and connect them with investors who can provide some additional capital that they would need. It will support the development now under of local, the whole program, the Eastern Caribbean Entrepreneur Initiative also will be seeking to support the development of local institutions. So here we're talking about the ecosystem building as well. Part of the objective of this program is for sustainability, is to strengthen the BSOs, to strengthen some of the key players in the ecosystem for green entrepreneurship, so that after the 3 years, there is in place an ecosystem that can continue the work of supporting and fostering green entrepreneurship in the OECS. As I mentioned, in terms of the target beneficiaries, as a 3-year program, the ambition is about 3,000 entrepreneurs, men, women, and youth, to be impacted or to participate in the 2 programs. You have the incubation acceleration over 3 years. So, and the countries that I mentioned are the 6 independent countries in the OECS. The other program that we are working on is strengthening of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Ecosystem Project. That one is in partnership with Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility based in Barbados. That is a regional private sector development organization that is funded by different agencies such as the IADB, the UK, Canada. Under that project, it is also providing an incubation acceleration program. This one is targeting ICT and tech-based or enabled entrepreneurs in any sector. So it could be agro-processing, tourism, services, creative industries, those types of sectors that are traditionally prevalent in the OECS. But the focus here are those that are ICT and tech-based. So again, in there could also be certain green entrepreneurs as well who could benefit from that. Again, it's a similar type, it's a 2-year project. So we are targeting about 20 firms in the startups and about 60 businesses in the incubator. So these are just 2 examples of current initiatives that we're seeking to do. Of course, the CBU is continuing to do work at the ecosystem and policy level. One of the things we want to do, for example, is to strengthen the policy framework in the OECS for MSME. So that is, we would be wanting to work with the member states to ensure that the policy and legislative and institutional framework for MSMEs is strong, to support them in building the ecosystem for business, and as well to strengthen the entrepreneurs themselves. So we are doing, for example, under the EDF 11 funded by the European Union, we are implementing projects on quality and standards, e-learning platform, strengthening the private sector institutions like the OECS Business Council. So these are just some of the areas that the competitive business unit is working on. I will put in the chat the links for the applications to the Green Growth Initiative incubation. The application for that for the incubator closes on the 26th of August. And we are also looking for mentors for the program as well. So I am going to put in the chat shortly the links so persons who are interested can apply to the incubator program. Once the website, link to the website is there, so you can continue checking for when the accelerator program comes on. So this is the short presentation here from Dominica, where the CBU is based in the Eastern Caribbean. And I would be open to answering questions in the chat and in the question and answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Very, very interesting. We will share as well the links that you have put, in our communication, which will follow, and we'll share as well for the presentations. It's very important. You have underlined one. We don't not have cases today, but we plan in the coming sessions on also on ICTs, on the high tech, which is of course very also important to optimize production and the whole value chain towards a green economy. So without a major delay, I give the floor now to Guy FAURE, with an expert, a senior policy officer working at the European Commission at INTPA, dealing with sustainable agri-food systems and fisheries. The Commission will be, the European Commission will be mentioned many times as most of the programs in the region and elsewhere are supported by the European Commission to benefit entrepreneurs, from research to private sector, to the policy enabling facility, as well as, of course, with OECS and STPON will say a few words at the end. So Guy, of course, we know that the development of the bioeconomy requires new knowledge, new funding resources to develop innovative products, meet sanitary and phytosanitary measures, increase traceability, developing all the IPR, the intellectual property schemes, improve soil, water management, sustainable practices, reduce waste through recycling, developing byproducts. It also requires, which is a big part of the EU agenda on farm to fork and Green Deal, also behavioral change and policy measures, also to raise consumers' awareness about circular economy and encourage, of course, the new markets, the adoption, but also obviously the buying of those products. So Guy FAURE is actually at the, as I said, European Commission with a very interesting program. Axel will put in the chat now the link, the Zira initiative, which really is a very comprehensive, huge, and he will tell us about more about it, a financial scheme which supports from production to processing to the final markets and climate, of course, friendly practices. Previous that, he was heading and lead of innovation, which is a critical part, of the conversation today, innovation, and the Agricultural Research Center for International Development in France, which is the CIRAD. You will all know is also CIRAD is very active in the region, and contributing to agroecological transition and sustainable practices. So without major delay, thank you very much again, Guy, for being with us today, despite a heavy agenda. And I give you the floor if you can make it again a bit less than 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Merci, je vais parler en français puisqu'il y a la traduction.
Thank you, I will speak French since there is translation available. Yes, please do so.
Donc, tel que annoncé, en fait, la Commission européenne est liée à la mise en place du Green Deal.
Is part of the implementation of the Green Deal, which is the latest, the new policy of the European Commission, and the ambition of it is to have a zero carbon continent within 2050. It also tackles the issues of plastic reduction, chemicals reduction, and the protection of natural ecosystems and grown ecosystems. Well, the strategy is from the farm to the fork, so from the farmers to the consumers. So we are dealing with matters relating to reducing the use of pesticides and chemical fertilizers. The idea is also to promote organic agriculture, organic production, more environmentally friendly practices. So within the framework of that new strategy, within the framework of the Common Agricultural Policy, there is an external dimension. It affects or it touches or it covers several countries, and the European Commission is trying to set up support mechanisms, devices to guarantee consistency in the ways to produce in order for these production approaches to be in line with the Green Deal. So there must be the designing of standards for exporting companies. For example, we've talked about taxation on imported carbon, and that may have an impact on SMEs. So it is against that background that the Commission with its partner countries support the development of a responsible value chain that take into consideration the economic, environmental, and social dimension. With the DACP, we have a tool to analyze the value chains against these three dimensions. The environmental dimension is quite new. So it has to be taken into consideration as well. So beyond the value chains, there is also support for the agroecological production. And I must say that I have quite appreciated the presentation made by the bananas producers of Dominican Republic. So we support the organic production through research, through innovation projects. Isolina mentioned the Desira program. It is a funding program for research and innovation activities on a multi-stakeholder basis, and mainly in the agroecological sector. The idea is to come up with a new knowledge and new technologies around the agroecological sector. And by the way, I must say that your presentations have been very interesting on this. So we promote more responsible value chains, greener value chains that promote the organic production, agroecological production, and that way new companies are being set up. And some of the presentations have highlighted that these can be opportunities. New markets are being developed to respond to the new needs and demands of consumers. So products that respect the environment, that respect the remuneration of producers, of farmers. We're also talking about new businesses that are being set up, mainly around the bio inputs, the biological organic inputs, and also relating to the processing and everything relating to the bioeconomy is fully part of our reflections. And that strategy from the farm to fork, that principle includes the circular economy, and it looks at how it is possible to achieve the social, economic, environmental objectives.
So we do need further information, innovation and research projects, because these are emerging markets, emerging technologies, emerging methods that are very different from the previous intensification and standardization of production and processing processes. And that transition requires much knowledge, even though we do have a local knowledge. The banana producer example showed us that innovative solutions could be found without research being carried out. We should value local knowledge and scientific knowledge, and hand in hand they will give us a possibility to move ahead. So that was as far as the background was concerned. Now let's say a few words about the support we grant to SMEs. On the one hand, I would say that we are well aware of the political and trade constraints that weigh heavily on producers. We have a study carried out in Africa that showed that the balance of trade has got a very strong influence on production and processing and on the way SMEs are operating. And we therefore have to take into account the fact that this environment is influencing the options that are offered to us. Then we, the different states have got a certain leeway to develop new activities, new small and medium-sized companies active in food processing according to a green and inclusive philosophy. And more projects are supporting, and the previous presentation insisted on startup and entrepreneurs, and I much appreciated the fact that depending on the level of maturity of the entrepreneur between the creation, development of the company, the support has to be differentiated. So we have different projects that aim at supporting supporting these agricultural entrepreneurs. But let's not forget that these entrepreneurs have got a link to their networks, to their value chain, and are rooted in their territory. Furthermore, there should be shareholders in innovative practices. The banana producer example showed that it is a question of entrepreneurship, but it is also a question of a collective, of cooperation, of a context, of a framework that all condition the way we are working. We have to support and insist on these two dimensions. And in that field, we have a couple of projects supporting research on technology and development, a project that aims at working on innovation support. We also insist strongly on capacity building, but as already been mentioned on several occasions, technical and functional capacities are covered, capacities to create new businesses, new activities. We have a project aimed at capacity development for agricultural innovation systems that highlights this and that suggests tools and methods are adopted to strengthen the capacities of SMEs, as well as the capacities of groups of actors who'd like to work together. And but the Commission already has a range of funding tools, tools for startups through the projects that I've already mentioned. And as soon as the companies have gained a certain level of maturity and have reached a certain size, we have different facilities for funding that are called the blending instruments, associating private and public participation that are also aimed at mitigating risks and give entrepreneurs the possibility to further develop their activities. And in that type of tools, we are introducing tools that give us the possibility to work with small companies with modest financial needs, but we also work with medium-sized companies whose funding needs revolve around between 1 and several million. And the Commission, I would say that the Commission is in a better place to work with larger companies than with smaller companies that are generally in contact with other banking operators. So that is what I wanted to say to the support we grant to SMEs in the framework of the Green Deal and an economy that aims at more inclusiveness. Thank you very much, Guy. I think that there was a problem with my sound.
The line, of course, key support, and actually, because there are many that cover different aspects important to the entrepreneurs, we will certainly put them as well in our follow-up communication, that you have a kind of a little compendium of what are the resources available. Without major delay now, and our last presenter in this panel before we move to the final session is Guillaume SIMØES, and is the investment officer at FD, which is the European Development Finance Institutions, the Agri-Food, so the fund which looks specifically at agriculture and the agri-food sector, is focusing on smallholder inclusiveness, agriculture and small and medium enterprises, which is exactly what we are discussing about. He has an extensive experience in implementing projects and investment strategies in Africa and Latin America, with, of course, a specific focus on agriculture value chains. So, Guillaume, I would ask you to be, as concise as possible. And of course, finance being one of the key limiting factors, not the only one, not necessarily the first one mentioned by the SMEs, but one which sooner or later appear. What really the ones you have and the few of the many ones that you have heard today, what kind of support can you provide to them, which encourage them to scale up to the next level? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isolina. I will try to answer to your questions in the best way possible. Probably we'll just give an introduction in Spanish for Spanish-speaking friends. I will just share my screen. Okay. ¿Pueden ver mi pantalla ahora?
I hope you can see my screen.
Okay, perfect. So,
my name is Guillaume SIMÅES. I am an investment officer in INTPA. And I wanted to say that Agri-Food is a financing initiative in agriculture of the European Union. And it is an honor for us to be here to present what we do, because the Caribbean is a very important region for ourselves, because we see there a huge potential in terms of impact on small producers and in terms of adapting to climate change. I'm going to move back to English for the presentation because the slides are in English.
So Agri-Food, so we have been created actually by the Association of European Development Institutions, as you just mentioned, Isolina. And so the 15 European bilateral development institutions are actually part of our associations. Just to name a few, there is, for example, Bioinvest, Cofides, Proparco, DEG. And we are fully financed by the European Commissions. And so we are one of the blending tool that is used to invest in sustainable agriculture projects with high impact on smallholders. So we have actually what we call a big catalyst role. So our main goal is to be able to attract co-investors in projects. And so for this, we have to build partnerships, and we have to try to unlock, accelerate, and catalyze investments in agriculture in developing countries. And we have to demonstrate then that they can be both sustainable and profitable, which is actually quite a big challenge. And so we have two main positioning today on the market. We are what we call a market developer. So it means that we will invest in SMEs that can be considered as high risk, that are, for example, that have as well a low maturity sometimes, but in which we see a big potential. And our goal is to enable these companies to grow, and ideally to attract co-investors after 3 to 5 years. And our second positioning is to de-risk co-investors. So we have a lot of co-investment opportunities today, especially with European DFIs, in which we invest in subordinated instruments. And so we help these investors to de-risk their projects in sustainable agriculture. So we have a vision and a mission, and well, to make it short, our goal is to foster smallholder inclusiveness. So our objective is really that smallholders can have make a fair living out of agriculture while preserving natural resources. And so for this, we tracked key impacts in our projects, such as, for example, the number of smallholders that we will target, the increase of revenue that they will make thanks to our investment and to the activities of our clients, the agricultural production that we allow, the area as well that is cultivated, the direct job, which is really important, of course, and as well as something that we call the leverage, which is the total number of investment that we are unable to attract in a company. And so with this, then we contribute, of course, to SDG targets, especially the number 2, 8, and 13. And today as well, we are following what we call the 2X Challenge initiative, which is a gender equality program that is followed by most of development finance institutions today. So in all of our projects, we try to promote gender equality. So today, to reach out to smallholders, we have 3 strategies. The first one, so we can invest in impact funds. So these funds generally, they enable us to target lower maturity investees in which we will not be able to invest directly. We'll take an example that's, for example, small cooperatives, rural MFIs, as well can be SMEs that are not big enough for us, because I will mention it afterwards, but our ticket size starts generally at 500,000 euros, or ideally 1 million. And so it's quite a big ticket size for small companies. And so we are able to target these investees thanks to our investment in impact funds. So today we have invested actually in 2 funds that have activities in Latin America and the Caribbean. I will present them afterwards. We have as well investments in financial institutions, such as MFIs. And this enables us to target directly the smallholders, because most of MFIs that have activities in agriculture, they will have they will pre-finance the smallholders before the harvest, for example. And our third main type of investees is SMEs. And so here we invest generally in high potential SMEs that are reinforcing the agricultural value chain, such as, for example, productive company, processing companies, or in distribution. But these companies should work with the smallholders, and they should contribute to improve their livelihoods. So to date, so we have invested in 5 projects. So 2 impact funds that have activities in America, in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa, and Asia. So which are the Fair Trade Access Fund, which is a global impact fund that have a big focus on fair trade value chains. And Alterfin, which is a Belgian cooperative that is as well dedicated to smallholder farming. We have invested in 1 microfinance institution in Myanmar that is called Maha, and in 2 SMEs. So Babangona, which is a service provider in corn in Nigeria, and La Laiterie de Berger, which is a dairy company in Senegal. So what we offer. So as I just mentioned, so our ticket size starts at 0.5 million and go up to 5 million euro. Our main difference, I would say, on the market is that we are really long-term investor. So our ideal tenure is between 5 and 10 years. We can go up to 12 years. Generally, we have a minimum tenure of 3 years. And we do this because we want to do what others do not do. So we don't want, for example, to finance short-term working capital, because a lot of commercial banks are already doing this in developing countries or impact investors. And we can have as well flexible instruments. So we can invest either in junior or senior debt. We can do as well quasi-equity or equity investments. In terms of sectors, so we invest both in agriculture and forestry value chains, but then only in projects that will foster smallholder inclusiveness. We have as well to be additional and have a catalyst role. So it means that we in our project, we should be able then to attract other investments. So impact investors, it can be DFIs, financial institutions. And we can have as well, let's say, some flexible commercial terms by giving access, for example, to local currency. So we can have then it's really actually useful for investment in local value chains, such as, for example, dairy. So we can do then investment in local currency. We can give as well access to comfortable grace period if it's justified, in order that the project has enough cash flow to be able to reimburse us. And as well, we have a technical assistance support. We don't do grant funding, but when we invest in a company, we can give then ad hoc technical assistance support. In terms of investment criteria, again, so we have to focus on exemplary projects. So on projects that have high impacts in terms of economic, social, or environmental impacts. So we need to create jobs. We need as well to preserve natural resources, to foster climate change adaptation and mitigation. So for this, we follow generally the IFC performance standards in our project. We don't invest in a early stage company. So we need generally to have a track record of at least 2 or 3 years. So we analyze generally the audited accounts and the business plan to analyze if a project can be presented in investment committee. But we don't do startups then, because we want to see at least that the model of the company is working. We need as well, of course, to have a measurable impact on smallholders, but our clients should be as well privately owned. So we cannot finance state-owned companies, for example. Our clients should be as well active in agriculture and forestry. The sponsor should put skin in the game as well, because it's really important for us that the sponsor and the shareholders are committed in the project. The project should be as well then sustainable in the midterm, so we can invest in companies that are not yet EBITDA positive, but ideally they should be EBITDA positive after a couple of years. And the reason, if we want to be sustainable as well, so the project have to be sustainable from a financial point of view. And so in all our projects, then we monitor, evaluate, and measure the results to demonstrate that the project contributes to the development goals. And the main one for us is really then to foster smallholder inclusiveness and to reinforce food security in developing countries. So, well, you will have my contact. So if you have any doubt or question, please feel free to reach out to me. In the presentation as well, I don't have time to do it now, but there will be a case study of a company that we finance in Senegal, which is the dairy company I just mentioned. So feel free to get in touch with us. And it was a pleasure to see the previous presentations of, especially I really like the one of Algas Organic, Banelino, and Twigs Natural. It's really the kind of project I believe that could be aligned with our mandate. So yeah, it was an honor to present this. And thank you for inviting us.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. Do you hear me well? Because it seems that I have a little problem with, you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah,
well.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Guillaume. And from COLEACP, I do encourage you, please, to get in touch with Agri-Food, because from our experience, specifically in Africa, there are very, very good projects which have been financed. So also sometimes it looks like a very challenging, and of course it is work. Getting money for private or professional reasons require work, as we all know. But we have seen very, very good results for SMEs, as Guillaume has presented, with really impact also on local economy, which is what we want at the end of the day, on local employment, you know, and really on incomes of the smallholders. So I really do encourage that. And you have a series of agencies, IICA, COLEACP, Caribbean Export, many of our partners, OECS, of course, as presented by Ricardo, that can bring the technical assistance as well where needed, you know, and support to get to the next step as well. So really, thank you very much. It is so there are many questions actually that have been answered. I think almost all of them. So look at the question and answer at the bottom of your screen. So I think we don't need to get back to that. Yes, we will share the presentations, as Ina said. We will share. We will put you in contact. Put it that way, with the people you want to. We cannot, for data protection purposes, just release a list of contacts with the personal details if the person doesn't approve it, but we will each time make the connections, as I've answered to some of you. So now, not to get back to the specificities that you have answered, what I propose is to ask our three SMEs, so Johanan, Nigel, and Gustavo, to perhaps tell us, from what you have heard as well, from the finance, the research, the people that can support you, what are you plan in the next 12 months? What do you plan, and what is the support you will need to get there? So if in a few minutes you can tell us that, and then we will give again the floor to the last three presenters before giving it to Estepion. So should I start by Johanan? I think you have also answered all the questions I've seen in the chat. I thank you very much for that.
Sure, no problem. No, this has been very helpful, especially Guillaume's presentation. Yeah, for us in the next 12 months, we're going to be getting our product onto about 50,000 acres in the US. And so, as far as support for that, we're a very profitable company already. So it would just be funding some capital expenditure when it comes to putting new factories in perhaps some more countries so that we can make sure that we can supply those farms. The US is a huge market, so is Canada, so is Europe. And we don't have a sargassum seaweed problem. There's not enough sargassum seaweed to it's like if you get into these markets the way that we're getting into them, very soon this will move from a problem to an industry, a bigger industry. So that's where we need support. I would say ticket size, 2 million and up US would be the ticket size. Thank you.
So you are the ideal candidate for our friend Guillaume. So very, very good. You had many questions as well, as you saw, for exchanges of experience with Africa and of course within the region as well. And good to see you in camera. You are really young indeed. Huh? So very congratulations for all the prizes you have received so far. It's very, very impressive. Yes, Nigel, what about you? You had also a lot of success, as I see from the questions and people wanting to exchange your experience. Tell us your quick plans and where Ina and myself, and of course our institutions and the partners want to make a difference as soon as possible. So tell us where we could come in, knowing that IICA is already supporting you.
Beyond the shadow of a doubt, capacity building. From a technical perspective, as I said, we've been doing quite a bit of work with IICA. So they've given us some assistance with respect to the food safety side of things, whatnot. But what we find is, I've also been in conversation with a couple other small entrepreneurs, and what is missing is the business management side of things. A lot of times, especially coming out of COVID, we find, like myself, I was retrenched about 2 years ago, and from my regular 8 to 4. And what I found is the transition from the conventional corporate job that these people would have held, like myself, did not always lend itself to business management in a true entrepreneurial perspective. So perhaps some support in that space would be helpful. Definitely capacity building specific to Twigs Naturals, machinery, whatnot. We're actually taking a look at some new machines, even though the ones we're using, they're small, they did us well, but it's time to grow when the workhorses start to break down. So those are the two areas, and definitely funding would help in those areas. It may be assistance in terms of some grant funding, maybe assistance in terms of co-financing. So we have assistance in the form of the institutions that we work with, but every little bit counts. And that's my my next steps to help us push into those markets I would have identified.
Thank you very much, Nigel. And as we said, we are a few of us that can come in. And as Ina said at the beginning, we also plan B2Bs as well as Agribusiness Forum, bringing the investors, and buyers, be regional, be from the EU, like COLEACP. So we will be very pleased to continue that. Gustavo, you had a lot of success as well. I mean, the model, and especially also the whole impact on the local economy. As Guy was saying as well, the social part, the environmental, and of course the economic is really what ideally we will all want to do. So what are your main things in the coming 12 months, and what we can do to support you, although you are doing already very well?
El tema sí
well, it's clear that all this issue regarding systems of small producers that have a horizontal economy, in the sense that the distribution of profit is able to reach many more people, so not only as employees, but rather as owners. So this is quite interesting. But maybe the main challenge that we have right now, at least, well, those of us that are working in a way as employees of the small producers associations, it's probably regarding regulations and standards. Although, quote unquote, they are not compulsory, except the organic regulation that is public, and maybe the other standards or regulations or certificates are rather private. But without them, we're not able to sell to supermarkets, for example. So what hasn't maybe been addressed in the last 2 years is that regarding regulations, we see that they're becoming increasingly complex for small producers. So we have a vision maybe that is focusing more on farms or plantations, and this generates some issues. So access to new regulations, so knowledge of these new regulations for small producers is complicated. When we have associations, well, we have to redouble the efforts of our internal control systems to be able to have access to different certificates and certifications. But it's becoming increasingly difficult regarding certificates and labels, etc. And it's really complicating things. And an association right now, well, associations find it very difficult to comply with all regulations to be able to export. So this is a cry for help. We want to try and find partners there where the regulations and rules and standards and labels and certifications are being created, both public and private, and take into account the vision and focus of small producers. We're talking about entrepreneurs, and we really admire them. But in this new world of negotiations through networks for producers that are maybe 70 or 75 years old, which is a reality in these countries, well, this is complicated for them. So we want to strengthen associations, but this has a very high cost, higher than a control system that we might have in a plantation or in a large farm. But then please be aware, those that are creating regulations, to understand the different systems of small producers. And well, in the case of the EU, the new regulation for organic farming, for all of us who believe in organic farming, that are all of us who are fighting to make sure that it's more participatory from a production point of view. So all of them to have the right to produce, and also for consumers that have the right to consume. If we continue making these regulations more stringent, and this is providing a not acknowledged privilege to producers that didn't have the means or the technology to produce traditionally or regarding inputs, we would only have very small group of consumers that are quite rich to be able to purchase these products. So this makes no sense. What we want is to have more people produce, because we know this is important for the sustainability of our planet. And then we want to make sure that even people with small means to be able to have access to organic products. So it's not just a privilege of the rich, it's for all. But those that are drafting the regulations and the rules and the laws need to be aware to not limit. This is what we're seeing right now in this new organic regulation that they're trying to approve in the European Union.
The capacities to try to meet this new regulation. But certainly from where you speak and from where I come from, at least, I'm absolutely convinced and even more that one of the solutions is the farmers and, you know, cooperatives and associations stronger and stronger, you know, that the impact on smallholders is there and is a struggle everywhere. But I think it's key, and certainly it's key within the also EU programs that Guy was presenting. So let's hope that all develops well. So before I give the floor to Estepion, 1 minute, Ricardo, Guy, Guillaume. Ricardo?
Thank you very much. It was indeed a pleasure to be here. I think the presentations from the MSMEs were very, very interesting. I am coming from the OECS. I must make mention of Mr. DUJON, who is from St. Lucia, in terms of his success and what he has done, but certainly the presentation from Nigel and Gustavo, also very interesting and something we can learn from. For us at CBU, I have taken note of all of the areas that have been mentioned of need, because I think it applies to MSMEs in the OECS as well in terms of the technical capacity building finance standards. We in the OECS we will look forward to further collaboration with IICA. We have worked with IICA and looking forward to work with COLEACP in terms of how we can build partnerships to support our MSMEs in that area. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continued engagement, and all the best to all of the MSMEs, the 3 MSMEs who presented today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Guy?
Oui, donc oui, toutes les présentations étaient extrêmement
All the presentations
intéressantes.
have been delivered are very interesting.
Beaucoup de points qui ont été abordés et traités.
Many things have been dealt with, have been tackled, and the lesson that I draw, what I bring back home, relates to SMEs and especially the role of the associations of small producers. We cannot just strengthen SMEs, small producers, without looking at the association. That brings me back to what I was saying about individual innovation by entrepreneurs, but also collective innovation. And this is absolutely critical. As to the norms and the standards, so indeed, it is very much linked to trade, be it private standards or public standards. In Costa Rica, I had worked on this with organizations of producers. I know how challenging it is. The new standards that are being implemented around organic agriculture are very much questioned. They have been designed, outlined for Europe, but they have major consequences for small producers outside Europe. And that's something we need to keep on discussing with COLEACP. We need to keep on discussing about the impact of these norms and standards, at least to have the organizations and associations be heard about this.
My colleagues are already working on that with many other partner organizations. Actually, it's quite a huge task. So Guillaume, I think you should find some SMEs to continue to interact with. You are muted.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, it was a pleasure to participate to this conference. But probably just as I mentioned in the introduction, so the Caribbean is quite a strategic area for us because we see actually both a potential in terms of impact on smallholders, which is our core mandate, and as well, it's a big issue to tackle, which is adaptation to climate change in this area. And well, we are actually one of the tools that Mr. FAURE mentioned of the EU to finance actually companies that are, let's say, in the missing middle. So, well, our goal is really to finance companies that are, let's say, not mature enough for big financials or institutions or local banks. But the issue that we find sometimes as well is to find actually some companies that have already the level of institutionalization needed to welcome us as an investor. And so here I will underline as well the paramount role that the technical assistant is playing to let's say be able to structure these companies in order that as well they are able to build their value chains. So around, for example, producer organization, as we have just mentioned. And so yes, I will be happy then to enter in touch with the participants if they are interested in getting funding by Agri-Food, then I will be more than happy to review their investment plans.
Thank you very much. We can share also the good work you have done in Africa. And I think, you know, Caribbean is a very, very dynamic region in terms of entrepreneurship. And there are excellent, excellent SMEs that just need that support to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So I thank you all from my side. Now I will give the floor to Estipion and then my colleague Ena for the latest words on the way, you know, the next steps. I just, of course, thank everybody, but also my colleagues, Axel, Gaëtan, Mohamed and Chloe with interpreters as well that are in the background. So Estipion, thank you very much for having, you know, been with us from the start, really listening. For those who have joined later, Estipion Oliveira Gomez is the Assistant Secretary General for Structural Economic Transformation and Trade at the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States in Brussels, but working with, you know, all these countries. So he's now in the policy side and finance as well, but he was previously in the region at Caribbean Export and previously to the CDE, so very much on the entrepreneur and private sector side. So I think, you know, you have the different parts of understanding for the entrepreneurs and their ecosystem to give us some wise words on the way forward, and of course also from where you are now, not only what you think that should be done and can be done, but eventually you know what OECPS could do with some of us as well. So thank you again very much to being with us. Estipion.
Thank you very much, Isolina, for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from Dominican Republic, so I'll be mixing languages. I was very inspired today. I loved it. I liked very much the experiences from the SMEs. I think that the innovations showed by Algas Organicas was incredible. I really liked it. In fact, I would recommend him to try to work a lot more with Martinique. So Martinique has a serious sargassum problem. And it would be great if you're not doing it today, maybe through Mr. James and the OECS, you can work together, because transferring the knowledge that you have in St. Lucia, La Belle Hélène, to Martinica would be really good. With regards to what Mr. Gandini has said, I really like what he said. Bueno, en español, me gustó mucho lo que él dijo y creo que también se resume.
I really liked it. And like Mr. FAURE said, international standards imposed by international markets from the richest countries must be coordinated with producers. This is a daily fight that we have embarked upon, and we are working with IICA-COLEACP and with the European Union so that all those products have a single voice and they can participate, as it is said by the post-Cotonou cooperation agreement. These standards should be done jointly. We need to get organized around this. We need to say that if countries didn't react on time, we still need to make this a reality today.
I much appreciated what Mr. FAURE said about coordinating aid. That's what we are doing. We are currently setting up an early alarm mechanism that would call upon the EU to work together between the EU and ACP countries for the development of...
really inspired by what you're doing. I'm not from a coffee. I am not from a coffee drinking island, not tea drinking island, but I really enjoyed what you're doing and the way that you're expanding your business. So congratulations, so especially that you have been able to get support from a lot of different people. Having said that, for those that do not know what the OECPS is, which I suppose most of you are, we are the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States. We coordinate most of the programs that have been presented here today. We have in Agri-Food, with the OECS Commission, we work. We have a special program with the OECS Commission under trade.com, in which COMESA is linking with the OECS. We have Eastern and Southern Africa linking and exchanging best practices in SME development with the Caribbean through one of our programs. And we have really other And definitely we work a lot with the European Commission, which are our partners. We are led by our Secretary General, His Excellency, Mr. George Revelo Pinto Chicote, and our raison d'etre is to promote sustainable development in our member states through an inclusive process in which we favor really women and children, and youth, sorry, as the future of our societies. So we're really working towards that, empowering our SMEs, because you are really the backbone of our societies. So a lot of the programs that were presented here today correspond to a joint OECD-EU private sector development framework in which we work with a lot of partners. We have an improvement, we're seeking to improve the business climate. We have several programs. We're strengthening intermediary organizations through IICA and COLEACP in many cases, especially in agriculture. We're promoting microfinance schemes, and we're also promoting blending facilities to give more money to the OECS businesses. Agri-Food is part of this. We also have in the Caribbean a new investment facility that will be put in place with the Inter-American Development Bank, and that I suppose the delegation in Barbados will be publishing that very soon. So we're really promoting, and this type of event allows us to share best practices. We need together to ensure market access. And I think that the basis of all of what we do is really public-private sector dialogue like we have been doing today. I really appreciate the frankness. I personally think that 2 million entry ticket is too high, especially for the Caribbean. I worked a lot with SMEs and I think it's too high. Nevertheless, how are we working towards us is people like the European Investment Bank, what are doing is giving loans to national or regional banks and then subdividing it in smaller loans. So that helps to reduce the cost of the entry ticket. So I think I think also give you the message that the COVID pandemic has some good things, and one good thing is that it has forced us to talk to each other much more. And I hope that through this type of events, we can really make the OECS dream true, having the Africa, Caribbean, and the Pacific working together with the European Union for a better world. I have been privileged to travel all around the OECS to all regions, and I can assure you that we are very similar. And we like the same type of things, and I do believe that there is a way of working together more and more. So I definitely liked a lot the spirit of this event, the fact that Africa joined, and I hope the Pacific too, but well, that time difference is very, very difficult. And also call that our new development policies have to be developed jointly with SMEs, with the civil society, to ensure that they can actually bring about a more sustainable development, as we called for with the implementation of new rules. Just to finish in Spanish then, that what we're trying to do under the leadership of Mr. Chicote is to garantizar a los exportadores
in order to guarantee the exporters of our countries that they have a competitive access to markets. And this includes standards to ensure that our farmers have the financial resources and time to adapt to new rules. This has to be slowed down and not done in a rush. The private sector also has to participate. And we need to build public policies that help the promotion of these new models, and at the same time, foster cooperation and exchanges between Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, merci, obrigado, thank you, shukran, asante.
Thank you, muchísimas gracias, Ciprián. And let me say it has been a distinct pleasure and honor to share this meeting with all of you. Let me thank my colleague, Isolina, COLEACP team, the IICA team, all of my colleagues from around the Caribbean and the world. Amazing presentations from our businesses, from our technical experts. Please keep us, everyone, posted on your developments. We already are seeing a lot of networking and contacting and so on, and we'd like to be able to document all of these impacts of these forums. And as Isolina said, we are here to make a difference and to do it in quick time. So thank you again. Our next forum is going to be hosted at the Caribbean Week of Agriculture, which will be a virtual event this year during the week of October 4th to 8th. And we'll host our business session number 3 there, looking at sustainable recovery post-COVID for our businesses linked between agriculture and tourism. So thanks again, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you and all of your colleagues and all of our stakeholders at our next forum. Thank you again, everyone. Have a good day and take care.